My neighbor blocked my driveway repeatedly. Here's how I confronted him. My neighbor blocked my driveway 17 times. I tried being nice. I tried leaving notes. I even tried reasoning with him. He just laughed. He thought he had all the power. What he didn't know was that on the 18th time, I wasn't going to get angry. I was going to get strategic. This isn't the story of a confrontation. This is the story of a perfectly laid trap, sprung with three key ingredients: a certified letter, a tow truck on speed dial, and a little-known city ordinance that cost him a fortune. I didn't just get my driveway back. I took the whole situation back, lock, stock, and barrel. Hey, store lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. But let me back up, because this story has layers you won't see coming. The first strike. It started innocently enough. Brad, that's what I'll call him, moved in next door about 6 months ago. Single guy, mid-30s, drove a massive Ford F-250 that he clearly loved more than life itself. The truck was pristine, lifted, chrome everywhere. This thing was his baby. The first time he blocked my driveway, I figured it was an honest mistake. New neighbor, maybe he didn't realize where the property line was. I left a friendly note. Hey neighbor, just wanted to let you know your truck is blocking my driveway. Thanks. Next morning, the truck was gone. Problem solved, right? Wrong. 3 days later, it happened again. This time, I knocked on his door. Brad answered in a tank top, beer in hand, classic rock blasting from inside. When I politely explained the situation, he looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Oh, that? Yeah, my driveway's full of boxes from moving. I'll move it later. Later turned into the next afternoon. I was 2 hours late for a work meeting because I couldn't get out. By the fourth incident, I realized this wasn't absent-mindedness. This was deliberate. Brad had figured out he could use my driveway as his personal overflow parking, and there wasn't much I could do about it. Or so he thought. The blocking became more frequent. Sometimes his truck. Sometimes his girlfriend's car, a beat-up Honda Civic that leaked oil all over my concrete. Sometimes both vehicles, creating a perfect barricade that trapped my car completely. Each time, I'd leave a note. Each time, Brad would move the vehicles, eventually. But his responses got snarkier. Sorry, forgot, became relax, it's just a few hours, became find somewhere else to park. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning in October. I had a crucial doctor's appointment, a specialist I'd waited 3 months to see. I walked out to find both vehicles blocking my driveway and Brad nowhere to be found. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I pounded on his door. No answer, though I could hear movement inside. I missed the appointment. Rescheduled for January. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting Brad directly, I did something he never expected. I studied him. For 2 weeks, I documented everything. Times he blocked the driveway. Duration. Photos with timestamps. License plates. I even installed a security camera that captured the entire front of my property. But more importantly, I researched Brad himself. Social media is a beautiful thing when you're building a case. Brad's Facebook was a goldmine. Pictures of his truck at car shows. Posts about his job at a local auto parts store. But the most interesting discovery? Brad was on probation. A DUI from 8 months ago. Still had 6 months left on his probation. Suddenly, this game had different stakes. While documenting Brad's behavior, I dove deep into local ordinances. Most people don't realize how specific parking laws can be, especially regarding private driveways and property access. I discovered something beautiful: City Ordinance 14.23b. This obscure regulation states that blocking access to a residential driveway for more than 4 hours constitutes interference with private property use and carries a fine of $200 for the first offense, $500 for the second, and $1,000 for each subsequent violation. But here's the kicker: enforcement required specific documentation and a formal complaint process that most people never bothered with because it seemed complicated. I spent 3 days learning that process inside and out. The documentation trap. Armed with legal knowledge, I started building an airtight case. Every time Brad blocked my driveway, I followed a specific protocol. 1. Timestamp photo from multiple angles. 2. Attempted contact, documented phone calls, and door knocking. 3. 4-hour timer. 4. Second round of photos proving the violation. 5. Formal incident report. By December, I had documented 12 violations of City Ordinance 14.23b. At the escalating fine structure, Brad was looking at $8,400 in penalties he didn't even know existed. But I wasn't ready to spring the trap yet. I needed one more piece. The security camera revealed something interesting about Brad's patterns. He wasn't just randomly blocking my driveway, he was doing it strategically. Every time he blocked me, it was right before I had somewhere important to go. Doctor appointments, work meetings, date nights with my girlfriend. How did he know my schedule? The answer was disturbing. He was going through my mail. The camera caught him one evening, casually flipping through letters and packages on my porch before dropping them back. He was reading appointment reminders, work correspondence, anything that gave him insight into my schedule. Brad wasn't just an inconsiderate neighbor. He was actively sabotaging my life for his own amusement. This changed everything. Now it was personal. As I was planning my next move, I got a knock on my door. It was Mrs. Rudd from across the street, holding a manila envelope. "I think you need to see this," she said. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Brad's truck blocking fire hydrants. His girlfriend's car parked in handicapped spots. Both vehicles blocking other neighbors' driveways on different streets. "We've all been dealing with this," Mrs. Rudd explained. "But you're the only one who seems to be doing something about it." She handed me a list of names, 7 other neighbors who'd been documenting Brad's violations. Together, we had evidence of over 30 parking violations across our neighborhood. Suddenly, my personal vendetta had become a community movement. Mrs. Rudd's son, Danny, was a college student majoring in digital marketing. He had an idea that was beautifully diabolical. "What if we turn Brad into a neighborhood celebrity?" he suggested. We created a private Facebook group called Neighborhood Watch, Parking Violations. Danny set it up so posts automatically generated timestamps and location data. Every time anyone spotted one of Brad's vehicles violating parking rules, they'd post a photo. Within a week, we had documented evidence of Brad's violations across a 5-mile radius. The pattern was clear. This wasn't just inconsiderate behavior, it was systematic harassment of multiple communities. But Danny had a bigger idea brewing. "What if we made this public?" Danny suggested during one of our evening strategy sessions in Mrs. Rudd's garage, not to shame him, but to educate people about their rights. He proposed creating a TikTok account called Know Your Rights, Neighbor Edition. The content would teach people about local ordinances, documentation requirements, and legal remedies for parking violations. Brad's story would be the cautionary tale that tied it all together. We filmed several educational videos explaining City Ordinance 14.23b, how to document violations, and the formal complaint process. But we saved Brad's story for the grand finale. The first few videos got modest engagement, a few hundred views each. But they were building an audience of people dealing with similar issues. We were ready for the big reveal. On a cold Monday morning in January, exactly 3 months after my missed doctor's appointment, I mailed 3 certified letters. The first went to Brad, formally notifying him of 12 documented violations of City Ordinance 14.23b and demanding $8,400 in accumulated fines within 30 days. The second went to the city's Code Enforcement Division, along with my complete documentation package and a formal complaint requesting immediate action. The third went to Brad's probation officer. That last one was the nuclear option. Willful property harassment could be considered a violation of probation terms, especially when it involved systematic targeting of neighbors. I didn't expect Brad to pay the fines. I expected him to panic. Brad received his certified letter on a Wednesday. By Thursday morning, he was pounding on my door at 6:30 a.m. I was ready. I answered the door with my phone already recording, not obviously, but positioned to capture everything. I'd learned from watching legal advice videos that audio and video documentation could be crucial. "What the hell is this?" Brad demanded, waving the letter. $8,000? Are you insane? "It's documentation of your violations of city parking ordinances," I replied calmly. "Each incident is timestamped and photographed. The fine structure is clearly outlined in." "This is harassment," he interrupted. "You can't just make up fines." I didn't make up anything. City Ordinance 14.23b is public record. You can look it up yourself. Brad's face was red, but I could see something else in his eyes: fear. He knew he was caught, and he knew I had receipts for everything. "Look," he said, trying a different approach. "Maybe we can work something out. I didn't know about some stupid ordinance." "You knew you were blocking my driveway," I replied. "You knew it was wrong. You just didn't think there would be consequences." What happened next surprised even me. Brad broke down. Not dramatically, just a slow deflation, like air leaking from a tire. He slumped against my door frame and started talking. "I lost my job 3 weeks ago," he admitted. "Got fired for being late too many times. My girlfriend's threatening to leave. My probation officer's already on my case about the DUI fines I can't afford." He looked up at me with something approaching desperation. "I was taking it out on you because you seem to have your life together. Nice car, good job, pretty girlfriend. It wasn't fair, but I was angry at everything." For the first time in months, I saw Brad not as an antagonist, but as a human being who was drowning in his own mistakes. This wasn't the confrontation I'd planned. The plot twist. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, making a decision that surprised even me. "I'm going to withdraw the complaint with the city. I'm not going to contact your probation officer." Brad's eyes widened. "But," I continued, "you're going to help me with something." I explained the TikTok project, the educational content, the goal of helping other people deal with similar situations. "I want you to be part of the solution," I said. "Tell your story. Explain why you were doing it, how it escalated, what you learned. Help other people understand both sides." Brad stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You want me to admit on the internet that I was harassing my neighbor?" "I want you to show people what happens when small conflicts spiral out of control and how they can be resolved without lawyers or police or formal complaints." The collaboration. What followed was the most surreal month of my life. Brad and I became reluctant collaborators on what turned into a surprisingly successful social media campaign. Our first video together, "When Neighbor Conflicts Go Too Far, a Real Story," got 50,000 views in the first week. The comments were fascinating. People shared their own neighbor horror stories, but they also praised both of us for finding a solution that didn't involve courts or police. We made follow-up videos explaining local ordinances, documentation techniques, and conflict resolution strategies. Brad was surprisingly good on camera, honest about his mistakes, genuinely remorseful, and actually funny when he explained some of his more ridiculous justifications for blocking my driveway. The account grew to 100,000 followers within 2 months. The unexpected consequence. The TikTok success led to something neither of us anticipated: speaking opportunities. A local community mediation center invited us to speak at a neighborhood conflict resolution workshop. Then another. Then a regional conference on community policing alternatives. Brad discovered he had a talent for public speaking and a genuine passion for helping people avoid the mistakes he'd made. He enrolled in community college to study conflict resolution and social work. I realized I enjoyed the research and documentation aspects more than my day job in accounting. I started freelance consulting for people dealing with neighbor disputes, property issues, and local government navigation. Our antagonistic relationship had accidentally launched 2 new career paths. The real resolution. 6 months after that first certified letter, Brad and I were sitting on my back deck, reviewing analytics from our latest video about HOA disputes. "You know what's weird?" he said, scrolling through comments. "I never actually apologized to you properly." He was right. In all our collaboration, all our content creation, all our public speaking about conflict resolution, we'd somehow skipped over a simple apology. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not just for blocking your driveway, but for the mail thing, for targeting you specifically, for making your life harder when you were just trying to be a good neighbor." It was the apology I'd never thought to ask for, coming at a moment when I no longer needed it. "I'm sorry too," I replied, "for documenting everything like I was building a legal case instead of just having an honest conversation earlier." We were both different people than we'd been a year ago. The current status. Today, Brad lives 2 states away, working as a community mediator for a nonprofit that helps resolve neighbor disputes before they escalate. He still appears in our TikTok videos remotely, and we've co-authored a guide to neighborhood conflict resolution that's sold surprising well on Amazon. My consulting business has grown into a full-time practice. I help people navigate local government, document property disputes, and find alternatives to formal legal action. The neighborhood is peaceful. My driveway remains unblocked. But the most interesting outcome? Mrs. Rudd's son Danny parlayed his social media skills into a digital marketing career. The other neighbors who'd been documenting violations became a tight-knit community group that organizes block parties and advocates for better city services. What started as one guy's revenge plot accidentally created a stronger, more connected neighborhood. The lesson. Looking back, I realized the real story wasn't about parking or ordinances or even conflict resolution. It was about the difference between winning and solving. I could have won by following through with the fines, the probation violation, the formal complaints. Brad would have faced serious consequences, and my driveway would have stayed clear. But by choosing to solve the underlying problem instead of just winning the immediate battle, we created something neither of us could have achieved alone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's transformation. And sometimes the most strategic move is abandoning your strategy entirely. Brad still laughs when he tells people that the neighbor he used to torment became his business partner. I still shake my head when people ask if we're actually friends now. The answer is complicated. We're not friends in the traditional sense. But we're something more interesting: former enemies who discovered they could build something better together than they ever could have destroyed apart. That's worth more than any parking spot. The final twist. There's one last detail I've never shared publicly, not even in our most popular videos. Remember that security camera I installed to document Brad's violations? It's still running. And about 3 months ago, it captured something that would have changed this entire story if I'd seen it earlier. Brad, late one night, removing snow from my driveway. Not his own, mine. He'd been doing it for weeks, apparently. Clearing my driveway before I woke up, never mentioning it, never asking for credit. When I asked him about it, he just shrugged. Old habits, he said. I got used to paying attention to your driveway. Figured I might as well make it useful. That's when I realized something that changed my entire understanding of this story. People can change. Situations can transform. And sometimes the person who causes your biggest problem becomes the key to your biggest breakthrough. My neighbor blocked my driveway 17 times. But the 18th time never happened. Because by then, we'd both learned something more valuable than winning. We'd learned how to solve things together. Lock, stock, and barrel.